Welcome to a new video on English language, vocabulary and usage. And this is for school students. A common point of confusion for school students in transformation of sentences is whether to use as tall as big as small as rich as, or not so rich as, not so tall as. Whether they will use as for comparison or so as for comparison. So we are clarifying the doubts for students whether you must use as simple as rich as, or so rich as, so tall as. Which one you should be using, as construct or so as construct. The older grammar rule, in fact, I myself learned the same rule and I also used to teach the same rule. In affirmative, use as. He is as tall as I am. He is as rich as I am. This is as big as that is. So, in affirmative, we use as. And in negative, we use not so as. He is not so tall as I am. He is not so rich as I am. We always use so as if the sentence is negative and as if the sentence is positive. That's what we learned in older grammar books. And that's what I used to teach for some time. If it is affirmative, use as tall as. If it is negative, you use not so tall as. Now let us see what does modern English recommend. Modern English usage says use as in both cases. In both affirmative sentences and negative sentences, use as. So he is as tall as I am and he is not as tall as I am. He is as rich as I am. He is not as rich as I am. In both affirmative sentence and in negative sentence, we are using as. As tall as, not as tall as big as, not as big as. We are not saying not so big as. In both the cases, we are using as tall as rich as, and also not as tall as, not as rich as. There is no need to use the word so. In both the cases, affirmative and negative, you can use as tall as, and also not as tall as. This is more common today. He is not so tall as I am. That was recommended by older grammar. This is no longer in vogue. So today's grammar recommends as for both affirmative and negative sentences. So which one to use? Use as for both affirmative and negative sentences. He is as tall as I am, and also he is not as tall as I am. In affirmative, he is as tall as I am, and negative, he is not as tall as I am. In both the cases, use as. He is not so tall as I am, so as. This is correct but less common in modern English. It was recommended in older grammar books, but modern English usage does not recommend it. It's not wrong, but it's not recommended. He is not as tall as I am. That is common and natural. He is not so tall as I am. The word so as construct. It is correct but less common and not recommended in modern English. So easy rule for students, use as for both positive and negative sentences. Both affirmative sentence and negative sentence use as. It is simple and widely used. So whether you say he is as tall as I am or he is not as tall as I am, you are using as. He is as tall as I am. He is not as tall as I am. In both the cases, as. This is the recommended usage according to modern English. So use as for both positive and negative sentences, whether you say he is or he is not. In both the cases, he is and he is not, in both the cases, as tall as I am. There's no need to use so as. So what is the final takeaway? Final summary. Modern English prefers not as tall as, not as rich as, not as big as, not as fast as. It does not recommend not so rich as, not so big as, not so fast as. That so as is not recommended. We recommend not as, not as big as, not as tall as, not as rich as. So he is not as tall as I am preferred. He is not so tall as I am. You will find in older books, but modern English does not prefer it. Modern English recommends you use as structure even for negative sentences. So you say he is not as tall as I am. That is a preferred one. He is not as tall as I am. That is a preferred structure according to modern English. He is not so tall as I am. You'll find in older books, but not recommended in modern English. Now, does the word so add emphasis? In comparison, when you say he is not as tall as I am, or he is not so tall as I am, the meaning is same, no extra emphasis. He is not as tall as I am, the modern English, and he is not so tall as I am, older English. The meaning is same, no extra emphasis. But in other cases, so may have some emphasis role, emphasizing role. Like, I am not so rich as you are. I am not so rich as to buy a car. It could mean emphasis or even mocking and derision. If you are telling me buy a car, I could be mocking. It could be actually a kind of retort. I am not so rich as you are. So it could be mocking in certain cases. But in normal grammar, particularly in school grammar when you're writing, whether you write so or as, both mean the same thing. But as tall as is a modern English recommendation. So tall as is outdated, obsolete. But the word so does not add any extra emphasis. But in certain cases, in casual talk, I am not so rich as you are to buy a car. It could mean mocking or derision. So may be used for emphasis in certain casual talks, but in school grammar, so does not add emphasis. So he is not as tall as I am is recommended. He is not so tall as I am is not recommended, although correct. It's an obsolete, outdated structure. So that was a brief discussion. The final conclusion is always prefer as tall as rich as big as heavy as, and not so big as, not so rich as. This is an outdated structure. You may find it in older grammar books, but modern English prefers as, both for affirmative and negative sentences. Follow our videos, like and share, and subscribe to the channel. We shall come back with more interesting information useful for school students and competitive exam candidates. We shall meet again. Till then, thank you and goodbye.